The brand new ISO Hemlock assault rifle is now finally here in season 2 in Modern Warfare 2. Today's video, we are going to be looking at some basic stats regarding the ISO Hemlock that help us decide whether or not this gun is actually going to be the new meta or if it's going to be worth using. So how we're going to do this is we're going to go over some weapon testing results that I have personally done myself. I usually refer to a website called sim.gg for this kind of information because they literally rip the data out of the game. However, it's going to take some time for them to update this information. So for now, I'm going to take matters into my own hands and I'm going to test it out myself. Albeit, take these numbers with a grain of salt because some of these numbers may be just a smidge off. But I am no stranger to weapon testing and I know exactly how time to kill is calculated. And make sure to leave a like if you do like this kind of information and subscribe to make your way back to the channel. And let's get into the video. All right, so first things first, let's talk about the fire rate of this weapon. Now, if you don't know, fire rate does play a role in how fast a weapon kills an enemy. Then we have to figure out the amount of shots it takes to kill, and then you take those two data information combined, then you get your time to kill, and then we can go ahead and compare to the other assault rifles in the game. We got to figure out the fire rate. You go into the game and just empty out your mag, and then you measure the time from when you first fire that first bullet until you see 0 in the magazine capacity down here below in the right hand corner. Went into 𝗧𝗪𝗥𝗕𝗖𝗪 just to calculate this as accurate as I possibly can, and like I was saying in the beginning, take these numbers with a grain of salt. Some other people might have different values here, but nonetheless, this is going to be ballpark numbers here. All right, so instead of just directly pressing the play button, I'm just going to use my arrow keys on my keyboard and just go frame by frame. So now we have 0.017 milliseconds started, and also if you noticed, the magazine has dropped to 29, so that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see those numbers in sync. And then we're just kind of scroll here until we keep going until the magazine is completely empty, and we're gonna slow it down. We're gonna wait till we see 0. I'm keeping an eye on that magazine, and we're almost there, and there we go. So we arrived at 2.933 seconds to empty out the magazine. So this is going to be very important in our formula for calculating that time to kill. So if we pull out our calculator here, we're going to do 60 seconds divided by 2.933. All right, and there's our value right there, 20.45, but we're just gonna go ahead and round it up to 20.46. So from here, we do 20.46 times our magazine size, which was 30. Okay, and this is how we get 613.8 RPM. So now that we know our fire rate, we can go ahead and calculate the time to kill. Okay, so the second half of figuring out the time to kill is obviously figuring out how many shots it takes to kill your opponent. So I did this in increments of 5 meters and also only did it up to 35 meters, mainly because this range of 35 meters is typically the average range of engagements that we get into in most of the maps in Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer. That's why I only went up to 35 meters. I went all the way up to 30 meters and it became a 3-shot kill to the upper torso. Remember, I'm keeping the stats basic here, and this is just exactly how it looked. I have my target right there. That's 1, 2, and 3. So 3 shots to kill from about 30 meters. So now let's go ahead and take it to an increment of 5 meters. So now we're at 35 meters and we're going to do the same exact thing. And remember what I said, take these stats with a grain of salt. Maybe it's a 3-shot kill up to about 32 meters or so, but I was only doing this in increments of 5 meters at a time just so that I can get this video out faster to you guys. But the main point is that up to 30 meters, it's a 3-shot kill at the upper torso. And then for 35 meters and beyond, it's going to be a 4-shot kill. All right, so we're going to bring up our calculator once again because now we have the final missing piece to our puzzle in figuring out the time to kill. So we know at the upper torso, it takes 3 shots to kill. So let's take that RPM, okay? So RPM was 613.8. Then we're going to divide that by 60 seconds. Okay, and we get 10.23. So just remember that number, 10.23. So now we got to figure out the number of bullets it takes to kill, which is 3 up to 30 meters. And then we're going to minus 1. Okay, so that's going to be 2. And then we're going to divide it by 10.23. Remember that number I told you to remember? So this is the value we get right here. 196 millisecond time to kill up to that 30 meter range. Now let's go ahead and calculate the second damage range. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. 613.8 divided by 60 seconds, and that's our 10.23. And then it took 4 shots to kill from 35 meters. So that's going to be 3 shots divided by 10.23. And we get 293 milliseconds. So obviously the time to kill jumps massively when you go up to 35 meters. And these stats definitely tell us that this gun is best used within that 30 meter range because 193 milliseconds is honestly not that great, you know, when you compare it to other assault rifles in the game, which we're going to get into in a little bit. But also it's not that bad. Now it gets worse when you do branch out to that 35 plus meter range. All right, now here's some bonus stats that we're going to take a look at here for the ISO Hemlock. Let's take a look at the reload time. So we're just going to measure the animation and time it takes for the weapon to reload fully. And we're also going to be taking a look at this magazine counter right here. So we're just going to go ahead and play it. All right, so if we stop right there, we've already got a full magazine. We reloaded, animation's done, and we have 1.383. Remember, take these numbers with a grain of salt. What you see on sim.gg may be slightly different once they do finally upload this data. But as far as I'm concerned, when you're comparing this to other assault rifles in the game, this is pretty much in line or average, I would say, for the reload time. All right, so now let's take a look at the base recoil of the ISO Hemlock just so you can see exactly what the recoil pattern looks like. So I'm going to place my crosshair right there. I'm going to make sure it is in line. We're just going to fire straight up. We're not going to be controlling that recoil. Then we're going to do this 2 more times. Move it slightly to the right. So mainly we do this just to see if the recoil pattern is very complex or if it's very consistent. That's mainly what we're looking for. So now let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got here. So after inspecting this, the recoil is obviously not that bad, so there isn't much vertical recoil control here. However, I'd say after you empty out half of the magazine, it starts to get a lot more horizontal recoil. Now, the reason why we look at this kind of information is obviously when we're making our class setups, we do want to pick those underbarrels or any kind of attachment that helps out with horizontal recoil control. And just for the sake of comparison, as you can see, this is the 7.62. And I've gone ahead and done the same exact test 3 times. And as you can see, this pattern is a lot more vertical dominant versus horizontal. You know, there's slight horizontal there, but this is definitely more vertical dominant. So that's why, like I said, it's very important to take a look at recoil patterns if you really want to make the most optimal class setup for a specific weapon. Not all weapons are made the same. They're all going to have their own different unique stats. All right, so now we're on that website sim.gg that I was referring to in the beginning of the video, where they take data right from the game itself and put it onto this website. So what I've done here is I've taken most of the assault rifles that I feel to be competitive, just so I can compare the data that we got from our ISO Hemlock testing and just see whether or not the ISO Hemlock is a competitive assault rifle, whether it's meta or anything groundbreaking, etc. So we know that the Hemlock is a 3-shot kill to the upper torso. That's why I've had this selected here, so that we can just make sure that we're looking at the right stats here to compare to. All right, so we're just going to be breaking this down up to increments of 10 meters so we can just compare range by range how the Hemlock is versus the other assault rifles in the game. At 10 meters, the fastest killing assault rifle we have here is actually the 545 and the 74U at 184 milliseconds apiece. And then on 3rd place, we have the TAC-56 at 192 milliseconds. So what does this say about the Hemlock? The Hemlock, we know, has 196 millisecond time to kill up to that 30 meter range. So instantly, the Hemlock is a top 4 weapon in the game after the TAC-56. One can argue, obviously, that the 56 and the Hemlock are fairly similar in their times to kill, especially because there's only a 4 millisecond discrepancy between the two at this range. So I would definitely say it's fairly competitive up to this 10 meter range. So now let's move up to this 20 meter range. It's still going to be the same exact result. ISO Hemlock is going to be a top 4 assault rifle, right up there with the TAC-56, very competitive. And then the same applies to the 74U and the 545 being the fastest killing up to this 20-meter range. So up to this 21-meter range, the 74U is one of the more superior assault rifles at this range. The damage does drop off once we hit that 25-meter range, and the 545 and the 74U become a lot slower in their TTK after this 25-meter range, whereas the TAC-56 still remains dominant up to this 28-meter range at the same exact time to kill at 192 milliseconds, and therefore the Hemlock is still going to be dominant as well at 196 milliseconds. Remember, this goes up to 30 meters for the Hemlock, so let's go up to 30 meters here. So this is where the Hemlock is going to shine. At 30 meters, it is 100% the fastest killing assault rifle, excluding the M16, at this 30-meter range at 196 milliseconds. So this is pretty good, I would say, but it's only for a short range. So this little pocket here between the TAC-56 at 28 meters and the 30 meters for the Hemlock is really not that big of a difference. I would still say if you're looking for a weapon that's best at close to mid-range, then, you know, there's definitely better options out there like the 74U and the 545 as well as the TAC-56. I would say the 56 is going to be the most consistent one as far as close to medium range, and the Hemlock really only has the advantage between this 28 to 30 meter range. And then as we move on to the farther ranges of 35 meters and beyond, we do see that the shift of power goes to the Kastov 762 at 200 milliseconds. So at this point, at 35 meters, the Hemlock is going to be killing enemies at 293 milliseconds. So essentially, it becomes competitive with the M4 as well as the Chimera at these ranges. So overall, based on these stats, my thoughts are that the ISO Hemlock is pretty much a average weapon. It's not groundbreaking by any means. However, it is a pretty reliable assault rifle if you want to play up close or medium range, because it does have a pretty fast TTK of 196 milliseconds. It's competitive with the TAC-56, but on paper, the TAC-56 is still better than the ISO Hemlock in terms of stat wise. If you decide to hop in game and you want to unlock this gun, make sure to just use it up to 30 meters. Anything beyond that, you are going to be losing those gunfights, especially considering its very slow fire rate. So let's take a look at the fire rate of all these other assault rifles here. So our fire rate was 613 RPM on the Hemlock. Now, as you see here, it is on the lower end of the scale when you compare it to those other assault rifles in the game. The only assault rifle with a slower fire rate is the Kastov 762. However, the 762 does have a faster time to kill at longer ranges. Also, it's competitive at 200 milliseconds up to that 45 meter range. But the 762 has a much more flexible range. So in conclusion, I would say the Hemlock is a novelty weapon. It's not groundbreaking. It's not groundbreaking by any means. Definitely not meta as well. Not the greatest. It's okay, and it's definitely not the worst. So pretty decent, I guess you would say. So yeah, that's pretty much it, all I have for this video. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. I will be back with more videos regarding the Hemlock as we uncover more details about it, and also with a preferred class setup so you guys can go ahead and try it out. Make sure to leave a like if you did learn something and you like these informational videos, and subscribe to make your way back to the channel. Join Turbo Nation today, make it official, and I'll see you guys in the next one.